me, Shallow 360. How's it going? Could you have the coffee maker, please? I left it on for you for coffee, but I know you're not gonna drink the rest. How's it going, everybody?
You don't know me.
Well, turn it off anyway, because it's gonna get burnt. Hi, it's me, Shallow 360, and I know it's been.
Already off, Mom.
Well, I didn't know. Obviously, I'm really good at starting live streams. I'm the best. It's me. I'm terrific at this. Hey everybody, it's me, Shallow360, also known as Samantha. How's it going? I know it's been
Tell them your name.
They already know my name. They already know my name. Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm tempted to like turn this off and start over again because she's wilding out here. Anyway, hi everybody, it's me, Shallow360. I guess I should share this on my Twitter. I don't usually do that, but sure, why not? Let's do that. Let's do share and tweet. Okay, so it says I'm reconnecting. Hopefully it's working. I think it's working. I might have to stop and do it again. Maybe. I don't think it's working. I think I'm going to try to go live on my other... Oh, okay, it is working. Okay, all right. Don't know why. I thought it wasn't working. Hi, Mason. How's it going? So this live stream is called Talking About Troubles. And the reason I'm calling it Talking About Troubles is because, I don't know, I've had troubles on my mind. I've had troubles in my life. And I want to talk about my troubles. And I get that for some people, hearing other people's troubles is not their cup of tea. It makes them feel worse about their own life. I'm going to try not to make my troubles turn into a pity party or turn into something that adds more anxiety to yourself. I really wanted to talk about my troubles as a conduit for you guys to talk about your troubles, because I don't think I talked to you guys enough about what's going on in your life. And so if you feel like sharing what's going on with your life, if you feel like having a chat about those things, that's why we're here, to talk about our troubles. Also, I've been thinking about doing a couple of Instagram lives. Let me know what you think the best timing is for me to do that. But you know, on Instagram, if you do Instagram lives, you can add people to your live stream and you can talk to them face to face. And there's a few of you that probably want to talk to me face to face, but I know that the issue is not everybody wants to talk to me and have other people see them talking to me. And unfortunately, there's not really anything I can do about that. That's just the way this thing works. But I have been thinking about doing some Instagram lives so I can do a little like real time talking to people. So those are thoughts I keep in my mind. I've been considering. But let's talk about my recent troubles. One of my recent troubles is procrastination, i.e., time management issues. So I did a review of Kingdom episode 1 3 weeks ago. Haven't touched the series on my channel since. And it made me feel really bad when I thought about it yesterday, because I watched Kingdom with the group that I normally watch with. And I was like, man, I'm so many weeks behind reviewing this fucking show. And at this point, I don't even think anybody wants to hear me talk about this show because everyone else and their grandmother's been reviewing the show while I haven't. And I hate making promises to you guys about stuff that I'm going to do and I don't do it. But I mean, I have had a lot going on in my life recently. For instance, I started a brand new job like the very middle of April. And so like right before the second episode of Kingdom aired, I started a brand new job. Then on top of that, I had family come and stay in my house for a week. So that was a whole thing. And Stephanie is doing end of year testing at school, so that's been something to manage. I have a nephew who's graduating soon. That's something to manage. So time management, making promises to other people and not keeping all of my promises because I haven't been able to manage my time well. And that's something that I really do actually feel bad about. And yeah, it probably shouldn't matter because it's just a bunch of people on YouTube, and it probably doesn't matter to them that much that I'm not doing these videos that I promised I would do. But I never let go of these promises, by the way. Like, even when I don't follow through on a promise, I still think about them constantly. constantly. I think about the fact that I said me and Stephanie were going to do album reviews. We didn't do them. I think about the fact that I started a Discord to talk about fan fiction. Never finished it up. I think about the fact that I didn't finish reviewing Kingdom. I think about the fact that during spring break, I was supposed to record a bunch of unboxings to put on my channel. I think about all this stuff constantly. All these things that I say I'm going to do that I don't follow through. And it eats me up. It eats me up because one of the things that I always think about in the back of my mind, anybody else have this anxiety, it might just be me. I used to watch a show called Hoarders. It used to come on A&E. I think it comes on TLC now. And the TV show Hoarders was about people who live in these houses that are filled with crap. And when I say crap, I don't just mean items. I'm talking about like filled with toilets, filled to the brim with crap, rat crap, cat crap, dog crap, literally houses filled with crap. And one of the things that they said over and over again when they would talk about these people in these hoarding situations was that they had the best intentions, but they get so overwhelmed by the things that they can't do that they just don't do anything. And a lot of times these people don't realize how far it's gotten until it's almost too late. And I think about that constantly. I always think, am I on the verge of being a hoarder? Because I have these times where I'm in my life and I get so overwhelmed by all the stuff I have to do or all the things I told people I was going to do that I just stop doing anything. Like I stop cleaning my house. I stop answering phone calls and messages. I just stop everything. Hey, Aggie. And that always lingers in the back of my mind. Like I have to tell myself, get up and do something before you become that person on the next episode of A&E's Hoarders. And it's just, that overwhelms me sometimes, like emotionally and mentally. That idea of there's so much stuff I have left to finish that I haven't finished, it's overwhelming. And I think that was a big reason why I quit my last job, is because there were so many things I told myself I needed to get done. And I would try to tackle it all, but I felt like I didn't have any support at my job for doing these things. And I felt like I had management that wasn't interested in providing me future support for the future things I had to do. That I'm like, I have to leave. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. In fact, I can tell you the circumstance about me quitting my job. So let's start from kind of the beginning. I leave Texas, I moved to Colorado. I moved to Colorado because most of my family is here in Colorado Springs. That's where I live. I live in Colorado Springs. It's not a secret. Y'all know that already. So I moved to Colorado Springs because most of my family is here. I get this job. This job pays me more money than I've ever been paid at any job I've ever worked at as an adult. But it comes with a high degree of responsibility, licensing, certifications. Like it's a big deal to be able to do this job the right way because it impacts a lot. Financially, it's a very responsible position. And when I first got that job, things were cool. Then our whole business got bought and sold. So I got sold to a brand new company from out of state. And the company was a new company. Like they didn't have processes in place on how to do things. And they were from out of state, so they didn't know how things are done here in Colorado. And things just started to fall apart. They started to be really cheap with things that we used to take a lot of care over. They started firing people left and right to save money. They started trying to cut corners in terms of the way that we provided services to our clients. And I just got overwhelmed trying to do all the same things I used to do for my clients while still trying to operate in this new system that encouraged us to do less for our clients. And it got to the point where one day, it was a bad weather day, and when this bad weather day came, I had a vendor who totally boned out on me. Like they were supposed to show up and do a job, and they're like, we're not going to do it. Fuck it, we're not going to do it. And it impacted several clients of mine. And I was like, you know what, I quit. I'm not going to be able to do this any longer. I can't work at a job where I can't get any support from management, and now the people that I've been working with don't want to support me either. I can't do this anymore. I'm out. And I end up quitting my job. But I was able to work a different position for a few weeks while I was in the process of finding something new. But like in my mind, internally, I had quit. I was like, this is it. I'm not going to stay here any longer. And it was because I was overwhelmed with the idea that I have this vendor who quit on me, so now I'm going to have to start finding new support there. I have managers who have no intention of supporting me, so I'm not going to get any support there. I've got customers who still expect me to provide the same amount of service I've always been doing, but I'm being told not to, so I'm letting those people down because they expect things from me that I promised them I would do. I was wore out. I was absolutely wore out. And I think it's something that a lot of us deal with, especially if you're somebody who gives a damn about the things that you do. Because some people go to work and they don't care. And trust me, I've had those jobs where I went to work and I could give a shit. I was just there. My very first job coming out of high school was I worked as a lane attendant at a bowling alley. I could give a crap about that job. The only thing I cared about working at that bowling alley is making sure I didn't have any stains on my shirt. That was it. I didn't care about whether or not I was late. I didn't care about whether or not the people I worked with liked me. I didn't care about the customers. All I did is I stood there and I checked out shoes for people. I rang people up. I got like balls that were stuck in the gutters out. I programmed the little scoreboards, but I did give a shit about that job. That job meant nothing to me. But as I've gotten older, part of, building a career is trying to do jobs about things that you care about. And when I've cared about my jobs, it's because a lot of my jobs have to do with people. I've always worked kind of customer servicey jobs. And when you care about people, as I try to care about people, even though I'm an extreme narcissist, but when you care about people, even outside of your narcissism, it affects you greatly when you feel like you're letting people down. And I felt that way a lot about this channel. I felt a lot of times that this channel has let people down because of all my great aspirations or all of my grand ideas for things I want to do that I just don't get done here. And I feel like, why would anybody want to watch me, or why would anybody want to believe me when I say I'm going to do things if I keep letting people down? If I keep saying I'm going to endeavor into something, then I'm not going to do it. And so a lot of times when I promise stuff on this channel, I'll be like, I'm going to try. I want to do this. I have a plan to do this. And I kind of use that as an out, but I mean, really, I'd probably be better off just not saying anything. Just not even saying, I'm going to do this for you guys, because I just end up not making it happen. And it just tears me up inside that I don't do it. I have a couple of things I know I'm going to do for sure, though. So let me give you at least the promises that I know for a fact I'm going to be able to pull up. One promise that I know for a fact I'm going to be able to do. When I did my unboxing of the Shiny Atlantis albums, I asked you guys, do you think I should order another set of copies and I should tear them apart? And you guys didn't really say too much, but at least one person said, yes, you should order another set of Atlantis albums and you should rip them to shreds. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Well, I'm not going to rip it to shreds. That's an over-exaggeration. So if you've seen the Atlantis album, you know that the Atlantis album has like glue strip binding. It doesn't actually have a spine, which is the most ridiculous thing, SM. I don't know why the fuck you did this. They made the Atlantis album with no spine. So it's basically a collection of pages that have glue keeping them together. And I didn't even want to really open my albums all the way because that kind of binding made me so scared. But then I was like, you know what? If SM really does intend for us to tear this album apart, and that's why they made it this way, why not do it? Why not just do it? Let's just tear that shit apart. So I have already ordered my bonus copies from Zen Market because I didn't want to pay full price for these albums. But yeah, I already ordered 2 copies of the Atlantis album, and I am going to film myself tearing the pages apart. So that will be coming up in a video. It's probably going to be in another week and a half or 2 weeks before that video gets put on my channel, but I am going to do that because I've already paid for the copies. So at this point, it would be stupid for me not to do it when I've already paid for the copies and I've paid for the postage. So there's that. So Fake Aura says, I feel the same way about letting people down both on here and at work currently. I know. It's such a struggle. But we're working on it. Okay, let's talk about the next set of troubles. Because I have all kinds of troubles. So let's keep going. Next set of troubles I have. So I'm really trying, you guys, to be a better person all the time. But it's not easy to be a better person all the time. Because a lot of being a better person is trying to think outside of yourself. And sometimes you get so caught up in guarding your own spirit and your own soul that it becomes very hard to see life from somebody else's perspective. And it's sometimes hard to see how other people's reactions are based on their trauma. And I had an incident at work that really spoke to me about how I've got to be better because of what a difference it makes to be a better person. So, on my new job, I am the latest hire at my new job, but there was a lady who was hired 2 weeks before me. Well, about a week after I started my job, the lady who started the job 2 weeks before me put in her notice. And I was just like, wow, this job must be super hard because like you just started 2 weeks ago, well, 3 weeks ago, and you're already quitting. And as we were talking about her reasons why she was leaving this job, I realized something. And I realized that I don't do a lot of critical application. A lot of people say you should do critical and effective listening. That's a big thing. Like if you've ever been in a US school and taken a standardized test, critical listening and critical thinking are a big part of standardized tests. They really try to pay attention to how much are you paying attention to? How much are you listening? Are you able to glean the most important aspects of a conversation? But a lot of that critical listening doesn't have a lot to do with putting that critical listening into action. A lot of it is just being able to parse out the most important parts of a paragraph instead of looking at the implications of the paragraph that you're reading. And this lady, we had a little personal chat, because that's what you do. I don't know many people who work jobs where they never have non-work conversations. Like even if it's just like, what are you going to eat for lunch today? That's a non-work conversation. So we were having a little personal chit chat about, hey, how long have you been here? Did you move here from somewhere else? What do you like to eat? Are you dating? Little quick stuff like that. And she had mentioned that, and this was of her own volition, I didn't ask, but she mentioned that she was coming out of a 22-year long marriage, a marriage of over 2 decades, and that marriage was filled with mental and verbal abuse, and that she is now engaged to someone who she got engaged to 15 years after her marriage ended. So she waited a long time to get back in a marriage because she said it just did a number on her, and she just couldn't even deal with the idea of being with another man after being in her marriage. So we had lunch one day and she was telling me the reason why she quit the job. And she said a big part of the reason why she quit the job is because she and I both are filling in openings for people who quit the job like without any notice. Like people who just up and one day quit their job. We filled in those positions. And a lot of the people that we're working with currently were left stranded and without any help because the people who had our jobs previously quit all of a sudden. And a lot of them have a lot of anger and frustration for the fact that they had no one to listen to them when they needed help. And she said a big part of the reason why I quit this job is because I didn't want to be blamed for things that I had no control over. And I said, well, I don't really have that problem because if I know I didn't do it, then I don't take responsibility for it. I just move on and start taking responsibility for things I can control. But what I didn't hear when she was telling me about the reason why she was quitting the job after 3 weeks. Is that what she was really saying is, this job is giving me PTSD from the trauma I experienced from my marriage. Her marriage was with a person who constantly gaslit her and blamed her for things that weren't her fault and made her feel diminished and small and unimportant and made her feel like everything bad that ever happened to them was her fault, even though she couldn't control that individual's decisions. And I didn't recognize that that's what she was trying to tell me until a smooth 30 minutes after she told it to me. And then I had to do work stuff. But about 2 hours later, I said to her, I said, I want to apologize to you. And she's like, what for? And I said, I want to apologize to you because at lunch today, you told me why it is you weren't going to stay in this job. And I dismissed it from the point of view that the problems that you were having are not the same problems that I'm going to have. Instead of listening to the fact that this job is something that is affecting your mental health, and that you leaving this job is you taking care of yourself. And as somebody who totally believes that you should put yourself first in situations, I should have respected that, and I should have let you know that I understand your position instead of making you feel like you aren't a capable person because you can't handle the pressure. And this lady that I'm talking about, if you can't guess by the length of her marriage and the length of time since her marriage ended, this is a woman in her late 50s. And the look on her face when I told her this was like, wow, I can't believe that you're apologizing for something that so many other people would let slip by. Now, I don't tell this story to try to make myself look good, because honestly, I look bad by not catching it the first time. But I say all that to say, I've had a lot of trouble with that over the years. I've had a lot of trouble in that I want to be empathetic, but I'm not an empath. I know a lot of young people nowadays like to be like, I'm an empath and I can't be around certain people with certain energies because I absorb their energies into myself and it affects my mood, and so A, B, C, and D. I'm not making fun of anybody who claims themselves to be an empath, even though Shane Dawson claimed to be an empath, and that was a motherfucking lie. But I say all that to say,
Biggest lie of the century.
I've never claimed to be an empath. And even though I still don't claim to be an empath, I am actively working on learning better empathy. I am actively working on trying to resolve some of my first responses to other people's behaviors, other people's words, other people's actions. Instead of going by somebody's being bitchy at me and so I'm being a bitch right back because I'm sending you back your same energy, I'm still going to do that sometimes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not always going to take the higher road. But for people who have relationships with me that I'm trying to preserve, I really am going to try harder to look a little bit further in my listening process. And I wonder if anybody else has that same issue where, like, maybe sometimes somebody has given you negative energy or somebody has told you something and you felt like what they told you was easy to dismiss because of the throwaway comment, but not realizing that maybe that was supposed to be the opening of a conversation. Or maybe that anger that they have with you is not anger that's even meant for you. It's frustration over a situation, or it's them expressing anger because really what they want to express is sadness. I'm actively working every day to get better at that, but it has been very tough. It has been very tough because, as I alluded to before, I'm an extremely narcissistic person. And I'm not a narcissistic person because I believe I'm better than other people. I developed my narcissistic personality due to the fact that being a younger girl, I felt attacked constantly. Just constantly. I mean, starting from like, gosh, the age of like 2 or 3, I felt constantly attacked. I felt constantly attacked by people at church. who didn't like that I was too loud. I felt constantly attacked as I was in my puberty years and my weight, and people telling me I was too big to be attractive. I was constantly attacked because I loved answering questions in class, and I was told I'm being a teacher's pet, or I'm showing off, or I'm making the rest of the class look bad.
Don't forget annoying.
Annoying. Constantly being told I'm annoying because my levels of interest or my areas of interest were so different than everybody I was around. I had issues with the color of my skin, and growing up and having people tell me, oh, you're trying to act white because you're light skinned and you don't talk with a black scent. And back when I was younger, people didn't say black scent. They just said, oh, you're trying to sound white, which I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? But anyway, I had so many issues with people attacking me for everything. And probably the most traumatic part of growing up for me, and I'm going to tell you guys something it's hard for me to say it, but I'm just going to say it anyway because I need you guys to understand, like, all the processing I've had to do to get to the point where I'm as narcissistic as I am. I am a female. I'm a cis female. And I had my very first menstruation when I was 9 years old.
Oh, you told me about that.
I've been having menstruation since I was 9 years old, so for the last 30 plus years, I've been menstruating. Now, in America, most kids start school around the age of 5. They start kindergarten and then first grade when they're 6. So by that standard, I was in the third grade, almost fourth grade when I got my first period. I was in elementary school. I didn't know how to handle this. It happened at school, and I was just flummoxed. I'm like, what? I'm bleeding? What? And it just so happened that the teacher whose class I had when I found out that this was happening to me was a male teacher. And when I tried to discreetly explain to him what was going on, he was just like, there's no way, you're 9 years old, you can't be. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart because he said this in front of the class, so the people in class with me heard him say this. And then later on the next year when I went to the grade that I started talking about health, one of the girls brought up in class like, Miss, is it normal for girls our age to get a period already? And was looking dead at me. And the teacher, because she's an insensitive asshole, was like, no, that's highly irregular. Anyway, I digress. That was the start of my body changing completely. Prior to being 9 years old, I was never a heavy kid. Like if you were to ever see pictures of me when I was younger, I was not overweight. I was the same size as all the other kids. I was a little bit tall, but I wasn't overweight. After my puberty started, I got even taller. I actually got to my current height when I was in the 8th grade. I've been my same height all these years. Everything grew all at once. I grew a foot in 1 year. Like literally from the ages of 11 to 12, I grew a foot. My mom actually took me to the doctor because she thought I had that gigantism disease. I also developed PCOS, which if you don't know what that is, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. So I started to grow facial hair. That was super embarrassing, facial and chest hair. And by the time I was 11 years old, I was already a D cup in the boobs. How does this all play into narcissism? A lot of girls talk about developing late and kind of the bullying they get for, all the other girls having their boobs and their butts and them not having their boobs and the butts at the same time and waiting until later in their life to have it. There is a lot of trauma that's associated with having a grown woman's body but still having a kid's mind. I was 11 years old with C cup. I was 12 years old with a D cup. I was a kid in my mind. I still played with Barbies until I was 11 years old.
You were still a kid.
And I looked like I was 17 or 18 years old when I was 12. And it scarred me because boys who were my own age were trying to convince me to do things that were far above where mentally I could handle life. I had plenty of sexual situations thrown at me before I could even process the implications of sex. I had grown men try to put me in situations that I was far from ready for. And I mean, I was at a point in life in my middle school years, like fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, where I had seen multiple penises in live in front of me. And I mean penises from grown men, penises from boys my age, and everywhere in between. And I developed a high level of self-interest during those years because if I didn't take care of Samantha, there was no one else in my life who could. Because the minute I left my house to go to school, take the bus, walk back home, that's when the gauntlet began. Getting out the house, as soon as you hit the bus stop, that's when the comments start. Going through school, more of the comments. On the way home, public transportation, more of the comments. And if I didn't focus on Samantha and protecting Samantha and reinforcing that there's nothing wrong with Samantha and that when the other girl said mean things to Samantha, it was because of jealousy, if I didn't keep telling myself all of those things, I would have fallen into so many traps early on in life. Because don't think for a minute that I was seeing penises because there was just some man on the street flashing random penises at me. No, I would get cornered on my way to the laundromat. I would get cornered walking home. Somebody, pulling me aside and making sure no one was around and then undoing their pants. I would get pulled into situations where if I wasn't protecting Samantha in that moment, somebody could have really hurt me. And I got so involved in protecting Samantha that I really started to divorce myself from caring about other people. Like, I really became, my business is my business, your business is your business, and I don't need to get into your business, you stay out of mine. And as I've gotten older, I've hurt a lot of people along the way because I've had people who've wanted to be close to me. And my walls are reinforced steel and they're 12 feet tall. I'm basically in a fortress. I'm in a mental fortress. And making friends with people and sustaining friendships with people has been very hard because I'm behind these walls because I needed to form these walls early on in order to make it to adulthood. If I didn't make these walls early on, I would have never made it. And so now I'm having to start taking the bricks down. I'm having to crowbar off the iron and I'm having to smelt all of the bolts and nuts that are keeping my walls up because I'm alone now. I put those walls up and I built this fortress around me to protect myself. But in doing so, no one else has been to this castle. No one else has seen all the treasures I'm hiding behind these walls. And so in my early 40s, I'm a divorcee who's about to be an empty nester because I got somebody about to go to college.
Hey.
I'm really about to be fucking alone. I'm really about to be alone.
I'll still come visit you.
You can come visit me, but I don't expect you to stop living your life in order for me not to be lonely. And also, I have agency over that. I do. And so I'm having to do the work now. I'm having to do the work of tearing down my walls. But in addition to tearing down my walls, I now have to start planting flowers. And I have to start tilling a garden. And I have to start making me an inviting place for others to come and see. And I have to start having comfortable furniture for you guys to come and sit down and visit with me. I have to start doing the things that can help me to populate this castle with people. To start making me a place where other people want to be. And it has been extremely difficult. And my friendship circle is not very big. There's Mason, there's Jade, there's Alex. There's Tarian on a good day.
There's
There's Alondria on a good day. There's Stephanie. There's Stephanie, Colorado as well.
Trina.
Sometimes Trina, but we talk like every couple of years.
You should get to talk to her.
There's my mom, like,
Uncle Adrian.
no.
Aunt Allison.
Kind of.
Mimi.
Kind of.
Nathan.
Maybe a little bit. You're giving all our family names away, and you're the one who's worried about security.
And the baby, which I won't name.
See, she always gets on me. But yeah, like, there's just not a lot of people in my life who aren't related to me. I'll put it that way. And so, because of that, part of critical listening is also critical understanding. It's also putting yourself in other people's positions, understanding why other people have their walls up, and asking other people to let you in. And maybe understanding that their narcissism is not related to you personally, that it's a defense mechanism for them in order for them to be able to survive. So fake Aurora says, I can relate, and it's so difficult to stop doing certain behaviors and thinking certain things to allow people to get to know me. Absolutely. It's especially scary when the shade of previous behavior starts to arrive. Like, you can be having conversations with people and things are going good, and then an offhanded comment might be made, and it triggers something in you to think, okay, the bullshit is starting now. And then you start to slowly put them bricks back up because you're like, oh, I'm not ready. And it takes a lot to tell yourself, okay, don't pick up that brick just yet. Let them keep talking and just let them get from point A to point B before you decide that things are too scary for you to progress. And that's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. It's really hard not to let your previous trauma keep you from constantly feeling that fear that it's going to happen again. And I shouldn't even feel that way, because I'm at an age where my body is pretty much like all the other old ladies around me. So I shouldn't be worried about that. I really shouldn't. But
you look great, Mom.
I look the same. I look the same as all these other 40-year-olds around. In fact, I'm not even, I'm in the average category at best. But
please, Mom's the finest piece.
But it was so traumatic going through it early on that 30 years later I'm still going through it. And so that the triggers are the thing I'm working the hardest to get over, but it's also the thing I'm working the hardest to recognize for other people. And I'm not going to catch it all the time. I'm honestly not going to catch it all the time, but I am working really hard on that. I'm working really hard on that. But these are the troubles that I'm dealing with, because it wasn't until I apologized to the lady at my job that I realized, like, this is the reason why you don't have people in your life. Because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have never apologized for that conversation. I would have never apologized for that conversation because I wouldn't have thought about it past the conversation in that moment. Would have never thought about it. And there have been people in my life who could have been real friends to me. Like, honestly, there are some people that could have been real friends to me. And I never made friends with them. I met them on jobs. I met them through churches. I couldn't be friends with them because the minute they did something that hurt me, or the minute it seemed too hard to maintain the friendship, I just gave up. I just straight up gave up. I said, it's not worth it. And I did not realize how lonely I was until just recently, when I realized I'm about to be alone because Stephanie's leaving. I'm like, wow, I never felt alone because I always had Stephanie, or I always had my mom. And, those days are coming to an end. And now I can really feel that I am alone. And it's tough. It's really tough. And also, I don't think I realized, like, how lucky I've been that I've been able to push off my trauma for so long. I've been able to push off my trauma long enough to get married, get divorced, have a baby. I've got to spend the better part of the last 20 years not having to deal with the fact that things were so messed up. And now, just in the last, since COVID, honestly, COVID really like awakened me to the fact that my life is not good and I need to change a lot of things. But prior to COVID, I was just running the race, going through the paces, wasn't even thinking about it. And then now I'm just like, wow. And I often think about all the people who are in my life in smaller ways who are really going through it, and I haven't said anything to them. I haven't done anything for them. I haven't tried to reach out. Like, I just really have been absent, and I haven't even thought about how tough this has been for them. There's a few people that I maintain like really regular communication with, and I've been able to check in with them. But there's a lot of people that I like, that I really like, that I haven't been checking in with at all. At all. At all. And it's really tough. It's really tough. But I'm going to try to get better. I really am going to try to get better. I'm talking about my troubles in a way in order for me to establish accountability. And in talking about my troubles in order to establish this accountability, it is because I want to be able to look back on this video and see where I've made change and see where I really did try to follow through on all the things I said I was going to do. I have every intention of doing it.
But also, you could think that, like, for some of those not made connections, like, some of those could also just be, like, lack due to time or situation.
I can make excuses for what happened in the past, but I can't make excuses for what's going to happen from here on out.
Yeah.
So I could say, well, this is that and this is that, but I have to try more. I haven't been trying. I have to try more. I have to try more. So that's what's been going on with me. Thank you for listening for the last 2/3 of an hour.
We're done?
Almost 3/4 of an hour. So now, since I haven't been responding to the comments the way I normally do, you tell me about what you're going through. And let's talk about what you're going through. If you want to share. If you don't want to share, you don't have to. But let's talk about you. What are you doing? See, my narcissistic streak made me talk about myself for over 40 minutes and not even give a damn about what the people watching have been talking about and what they're going through.
Don't be too harsh on yourself. Over self-loathing is also a form of selfishness.
I'm never in danger of that. I'm never in danger of that. Like I
Still,
said,
don't be
my fortress
hypercritical.
is still very strong. I'm working on it, but the walls are high. I hope we can build a good friendship, and I'm working to be more social with people, but recently it's been hard when it comes to friendships because I've been disappointed by someone whom I was very close to. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Alondra. That is the thing I think that keeps a lot of us from progressing in our growth, is when it's not well received by other people, or when, especially if someone you trust betrays your trust. So, example from my life, but do with it what you will. I was in middle school. I think I was in the eighth grade. I was in the eighth grade because it was the year before high school. I was in the eighth grade, and I was still dealing with the whole puberty, body issue stuff. And there was this guy who used to kind of pick at me a little bit in school. And I have to say, the media, y'all are a bunch of motherfuckers, because you tell girls, oh, the boys who pick on you are the guys who really like you. And of course, I'm watching all these teen movies and shit, and I'm thinking that's what's going on here. So this guy's like, hey, I want to talk to you after school. And he's like,
I've heard this story before.
yeah, I've told you all my stories. So this guy's like, hey, I just want to let you know. Now, you make sure to say this when no one's around. I just want to let you know I've been picking on you because I like you. And I'm like, oh, really? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's so sweet. And so this is another one of those issues where, by the way, because I like you, we should make out. And also, this is what my penis looks like. And after, this all happens one day after school. The next day, he is an absolute asshole to me. Like every opportunity he could find for the rest of the school year, making fun of me, telling people that I like him but he doesn't like me, and just really and truly working as hard as he could to make the rest of my school year hell. And I was already the new girl at this school because I had transferred into this school like in the middle of the school year because Army brat. And I was devastated. I was really sincerely devastated that this person had made me feel like they liked me, and that the media had reinforced that, yeah, people pick on you because they like you, and that I allowed myself to be disrespected isn't the word. I allowed myself to be basically sexually assaulted by this person. And it was all just a way for them to try to meet whatever sexual interest they had. And then they proceeded to bully me for the rest of the year. And after that, like, I didn't take any guy seriously about anything. I I became one of those women who was like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. And I'm actually surprised that I ended up married at all in my lifetime, because I did not want to take men seriously because I had been hurt by men constantly at a very young age. But I have to say, Stephanie's dad was a different kind of dude. I really, really liked him a lot. I'm sorry, Stevie's dad was a really different dude. I really liked him a lot, so it was different. But it took a while for him to gain my trust as well. But I say all that to say, it's hard when you find yourself in these situations where you could possibly be close to somebody and you can feel yourself entering into situations that feel like deja vu. And then you remember how hard you got let down. And you don't want to blame a new person for another person's mistake from the past. But also, we had that old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice. No, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. We're all afraid of being wrong twice. We're all afraid of being perceived as naive and not learning our lesson. And we're all afraid of being hurt all over again. So, yeah, we just don't engage. We don't engage because we don't want to be hurt anymore. And then we're stuck constantly wanting these relationships that we can't have because it feels too much like the way it felt before everything fell apart. Meg says, I appreciate your honesty, Sam. I really have a hard time connecting with people, and I'm trying to get better at it, but my fear of vulnerability due to past experience gets in the way a lot. Wouldn't it be nice if all of us had no past? Wouldn't it be neat to like wake up one day and everything that ever happened that hurt you just didn't exist anymore, and you could just live your life with a clean slate? The only problem is if you lived your life without a past, every good thing that ever happened would be gone as well. You wouldn't have those experiences either. You wouldn't have some of the nicer times that were born out of heartbreak, or some of the victories that you had that were born out of hardship. And so living a life with no past isn't really the answer either. What is the answer? I couldn't tell you because
My answer is you.
I'm not a therapist, so I'm not even going to pretend. But what is the answer? It's something.
The answer to what?
The answer to re-engaging after you've been broken.
You just sort of have to do it.
Kind of. I absolutely think that therapy is the answer. I highly recommend it. I have not had a lot of it in my lifetime, but it helps.
As far as forming new relationships goes, like, you go into the situation thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. You could get disappointed. But then also, if you go into a situation thinking this is going to be the worst, you could potentially distance yourself from people that are really valuable. So you really just have to go in it with like no expectations at all.
I think that some of it is true. Like, go into it with no expectations at all. I know what I like to do to establish relationships, and this is only what I can say has worked for me. I start relationships small. I started really small. I started with music, K-pop. I started with TV. I started with work in common. And I slowly start to bleed pieces of my personal life into these small relationships just to see how people react, to see how things go. And once we get to the point where those small relationships start to seem like they're going in the right direction after inserting small pieces of my personal life into it, then that's when I start to feel like, okay, I can do a little bit more and a little bit more. But I also have hard stops. I do. Like, part of the reason why it's been really hard for me to make good friendships in a lot of my working environments is because there's a lot of racism out there. Real talk. There's a lot of racism. There's a lot of homophobia. There's a lot of transphobia. And the minute any of that shit ends up in the conversation, I immediately am like, okay, so this is never going to work. Like, there's a lady that was at my previous job that I really liked. Like, she was a really nice lady. We still talk occasionally, but she can never be my friend. And the reason she can never be my friend is because she's transphobic. And even though I don't have any trans people in my life that I know of, at the same time, morally, that goes against what I believe in. And I can't maintain a relationship with somebody where I need to be allowed to be my complete and authentic self and have them be transphobic and me just sit there and take it and not say anything. So that's not really my friend. She's my acquaintance, but she's not my friend because she's not ready to be my friend because her mind's not compatible with my own. Um, Sky Angel says, I lost a lot of friends as a result of a breakup. It's hard to be there for myself sometimes. That is the worst. Like, honestly, it's hard enough to not be able to make friends just based on you and who you are. But building your life with somebody else and then having that relationship sprinkle into all these other relationships falling apart is devastating. It is honestly almost harder than just having somebody disappoint you on a personal level because it really does make it seem like your world has been a lie. It does. Like, my divorce, prior to my divorce, me and my husband had been separated for years, like a long time. And we lived together with our daughter when she was really little, and we went to a church and had friends in the church and did all this stuff as a family. And when our marriage split up, literally every single church friend we made is still Facebook friends with my ex-husband. Every single one of them. There's not a single one of those people that I talk to. All of them went his direction. The only people I got to keep were the people I worked with. And they weren't even really my friends, but those were the only personal relationships I made during the course of my marriage that I kept. And like 2 college friends. That's it. I had to start over. And I had to start over with a young daughter. And it was tough. It was really, really tough because I felt like I didn't matter. When all of the people that were at our church stayed friends with my ex, even though he moved out of the city and I was still in the city where the church was, and I still lost all those people from my life, I remember feeling like, fuck going to church anymore. And I haven't been going to church since, honestly. I still believe in Jesus. That's still a part of my life. But in terms of going to church again, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not interested in being in large congregations of people who are really there for appearances. And so I get where you're coming from, Sarah, because you can, I don't know how many of you have ever been in a romantic relationship with somebody that you wanted to have a future with. But you can see your future very clearly when you're with somebody that has a chunk of your heart. Like, I could tell you, when me and my ex-husband were together, when my daughter was really little, I knew what our future was going to be like. And it was literally an episode of The Cosby Show. except for I was not going to be the working attorney. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. He was going to be the working attorney. But I was like, we're going to live in a nice house in a nice neighborhood, and we're going to have more than one child, and we're going to be really, really happy, and he's going to be so successful, and I'm going to create this beautiful home for our family, and we're going to go on fun trips, and we're just going to have our 20th anniversary, and everybody's going to be happy to go to our 20th anniversary because we're still going to be the same youthful, loving young people we were when we first got married. Yeah, that shit didn't happen. That shit didn't happen at all. And just as recently as 2 or 3 weeks ago, my ex-husband, he came up here to visit Stephanie. I'm sorry, Stevie. I keep saying Stephanie. I'm trying to stop. Anyway, he came up here to visit her. And while he was up here, he was talking about people that we went to church and to college with together that he still talks to. Still talks to. We've been out of college now for, gosh, close to 15 years. He still talks to these people. And it was crazy to think that when our relationship broke up, I literally had to transform my life. I left my home. I left all the people I knew. I'm totally in a different place than I was then. There's not a single part of that life that remains. Only thing that remains from that part of my life are CDs, DVDs, and photographs. All of my clothes are different. All of my furniture is different. I've got some pots and pans still from that period in my life, but everything is different except for Stephanie too. Sorry, Stevie, I keep fucking that up. Everything else has changed. And when we first split up, I remember thinking like, maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I've always been the problem and I didn't know it. And that's the reason why everybody chose him. But it's funny because when he was up here a few weeks ago, I remember him talking about them and I was like, I'm really proud of Samantha. I really am. I'm really proud of Samantha because Samantha fucking grew up. Samantha fucking grew up because he's still with those same people. He still talks to those same people because they're all still in the same place mentally. They're not in the same place physically, but they're all in the same place mentally. They're not interested in growth. They're not interested in being better people. They're not interested in changing anything about themselves. That's why they've been able to get along for so long. They've been able to get along for the past 15 years because they're all still the same. I'm not the same. I'm not the same woman I was when my daughter was born. I'm not the same woman I was when I got my divorce. I am a different creature entirely. And I can now see that even if these people were to reappear in my life through whatever set of circumstances that could possibly be, I'm not interested in maintaining those relationships. Number one, because they chose him over me. But number two, I don't even know that I could be around those people anymore. I don't know if I'd have anything to talk to those people about. I don't think I could be friends with those people. So losing them in the relationship, I can't say that that's been a bad thing for me. It hurt at the time. It hurt, and I felt very alone. And it is part of the reason why I ended up moving out here, because I'm like, I need to be around family because I don't have no friends. But yeah, I don't want those people back. And Sarah, I don't know where you are in your healing process, but do you want those people back? Are those people worth trying to reach out to? If they were still in your life, do you think your life would be made any better for having them there? Would you trust those people if they were back in your life again? It might have been one of the best things to ever happen to you. Could have been. I won't assume, but could have been. I could see that. I could see not trusting the friendship. Anybody else got any gems we could talk about? I want to talk about one thing in particular. I'm going to read this to you guys, and I need you guys to tell me what you think about this. This is still on our Let's Talk About Our Troubles, but this was a Reddit that I saw that when I saw it, I was just like, wow. That's crazy. Okay. That's going to be difficult for me to answer for you because my answer is I don't know what you're going to do. I can't concentrate on my homework because of video games. How do I concentrate on studying? I'm a high school student. So, you might need to see a therapist. And I'm not saying that to be rude or dismissive. I say that because there is like actual clinical evidence that it's harder to disengage from video game and screen addiction than it is for some actual drugs. Like real talk. So if I were you, I would actually engage some kind of professional help, or I would at least let the people in my life who I trust know that I'm having a hard time dealing with this and that it's preventing me from doing other things that I want to do, but that for some reason seem harder to do than playing the video games. Because I don't believe that people who play video games are like lazy people. I don't believe that at all. I think that it's more like it's just easier to play the video games than to deal with everything else. And how do I turn off that pleasure center so that I can get other things done? Because the more I don't do those other things, the worse I feel, and the more the video games just seem easier and like more of an outlet. So I really do recommend like actual legit therapy because it is a hard addiction to break. It's not easy at all, especially if you're good at video games. Like if you're good at video games and you have the possibility of maybe making a career out of being somebody who can play video games, what type of encouragement could you possibly have to stop when this could be your future? This could be your life. Why would you stop? So, yeah, definitely weigh the pros and cons. If you're not good at video games, but you're like entertainingly not good at video games, that's another future. There's a lot of people who've made a lot of money being bad at video games. So, yeah, that's one of those ones that like really you need to go to somebody who specializes because it's not as easy as people think it could be. It really isn't. I know that like I've had some form of screen addiction in the past with my cell phone, and I've like had to tell myself don't pick it up. And I know a lot of people do like the screen timers where like after a certain point like you get a warning saying you've exceeded your screen usage for the day. Something like that might be helpful as well, just to like give yourself a timer like this is what a reasonable amount of hours is for me to be playing these video games, and if I exceed this amount of time, then I have this timer to remind me like you're going over, you have to stop. Like sometimes you need external help dealing with the internal. Okay, so this is Am I the Asshole from Reddit. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because when I read this, I'm like, I've never heard of this before. If this is real, I need you guys to tell me who if this is real and you had to host this party, who would you host this for? Or if this is real, who should be hosting this party for you? So here we go. Am I the asshole for arranging a potluck for my sister's apology dinner? So my mom decided to host an apology dinner for my older sister. As my mom was busy writing her apology and whatnot, she asked if I would take care of the food and beverages. I said sure, thinking it was just for my family of four. But when my aunt and cousins heard, they also wanted to attend, so I decided to make it a potluck. Potluck is where all the adult guests bring a dish and all the dishes are shared. Of course, I never asked my sister to bring any food because she was the guest of honor. Well, everyone came over and we were all excited to listen to the apology and eat. My sister was among the last to arrive and she was offended that we were serving potluck for her special dinner. I explained that I had carefully planned what would be served. Sister's boyfriend is a vegetarian, so we had two meatless options. But my sister yelled at me that the apology meal should be prepared or at least paid for by the apologizer, my mom, in order to show proper atonement. We went forward with the apology dinner, but my sister called me the asshole for undermining the apology. Am I the asshole for arranging a potluck for my sister's apology dinner? I have never heard of an apology dinner in my entire life. And I am 40 plus years old now. Never heard of an apology dinner. Not even once. And I have to ask if there is a such thing as an apology dinner. And this was not something just made up in order to get on like the top trending for Reddit. Who owes you an apology dinner, or who do you owe an apology dinner and why? Because I'd like to know. Like, who have you done something wrong enough to, but still not in the point of like they deserve to hit you, but like, who have you done something wrong enough to that you should be paying for a dinner for you to apologize to them and have witnesses? Or who has done something wrong enough to you where like you still are willing to maintain the relationship, but they need to serve you expensive food and tell other people that they made a mistake? An apology. I never heard of that, honestly. Not a real thing on this side of the ocean. Listen, Sarah, I don't know if it's a real thing on this side of the ocean. I've never heard of it before. Never heard of it before. Now, it could be because I was raised by black people. Maybe this is a white person thing, and I'm not saying that to be racist or anything. I like, there's certain cultural things that people do, and maybe this is just not a part of the culture I was raised in. But yeah, I've never heard of an apology dinner. I feel like if I had known apology dinners existed when I was younger, I would have maybe let people know, like, hey, you've really hurt my feelings, so I would like you to make some time in your schedule to host an apology dinner for me on Friday. Like, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, hearing about it, I'm not like, oh wow, that's a really stupid idea, I would never. No, I don't think it's a bad thing if it's real. I just have never heard of it. I've never heard of it. I've never been to one. I've never been invited to host one. Like, I don't know anything about that, and I am fascinated by the idea of like, you owe me a meal and to publicly apologize for how you wronged me. And according to like some comments underneath this thread, the apology dinner was because the mom was trying to get the sister to break up with her boyfriend, but it didn't work. And so the mom had to apologize for trying to break up their relationship, which is weird. That's a weird thing. But yeah, like, an apology dinner. If I owe you an apology dinner, please DM me on Twitter or Instagram to let me know why. Because, like, I might not pay for the dinner, but I might at least give you the apology you deserve. But, like, for real, hmm. I guess I would host an apology dinner for my mom because I was a tough kid to deal with, like, during my teenage years because I had all this stuff going on in my head, and I think I just like made it tough for my mom because I was like so in my head and just so like passive aggressive a lot when I was growing up, and I didn't really explain to her what was going on with me. I don't know, in my immigrant household we barely apologize, let alone by dinner. Let us talk about that. Let's unpack that for a minute. You say in your immigrant household you barely apologize. Let me tell you something. Your immigrant household is not very different from my black household. So when Stevie's dad was here, we were having a conversation. Well, we weren't. Stevie and her dad were having a conversation about the movie Brave. Have you ever seen the movie Brave? It's a Disney movie. And the main character of the movie, her and her mother are having a disagreement because her mother wants her to marry one of these guys who's a prince of whatever place they're from. And she doesn't want to get married because she's still young and she's not in the mood to get married. And the mom's like, you have to. And so she goes to a witch in the forest to try to get a potion to change her mother's mind and ended up turning her mother into a bear. And Stevie's dad was like, okay, so this whole thing would have never happened if that little girl hadn't have poisoned her mom. And Stevie was saying, well, she wouldn't have done that if her mother would have just listened to her and understood where she was coming from. And he was like, no, no, it's all the daughter's fault. The whole thing is her fault. And, you know, part of being a parent in 2021 is acknowledging where, like, in the past, kids didn't have a lot of agency in parent child relationships. And a lot of times it was easy for the parent to say, if anything went wrong in our relationship, it was your fault because you're the kid and you don't know the world. So you're making all these mistakes and you need to be aware that you're always at fault because you're the younger person and you're the one who doesn't know any better. And I've been really fighting to not be that way personally as a parent. I mean, I still have those times where I'm like, you just don't get it because you're young. But in that instance, I was on Stephanie's side. I was like, no, this is a misunderstanding for both people, and they both need to learn from this. But I think a lot of times with immigrant households and, in my case, Black households, we have ancestors, whether they be grandparents, parents, older people in our family, who have dealt with so much external hardship in the world that by the time the world has broken them down, they don't have a lot of love to bring home. And because they don't have a lot of love to bring home, the only thing they can bring home for you is gender roles and familial roles that mirror what they were taught. And their form of love is providing you with a roof and providing you with food and providing you with educational opportunities. But actually hearing you and seeing who you are as a person and trying to understand who you are as a person and to grant you your agency and to let your voice be heard and to try to build something with you other than a parent child relationship, that's something that a lot of immigrant and Black households don't do. They, in fact, they reinforce over the years, no matter how old you get, you're always going to be the child, and I'm always going to be the adult here. Even if you're 50, I'll be 70, you'll always be the child, I'll always be the adult. And in a lot of ways, that hurts their children, and it actually strains those relationships because there's a lot of ways that people react to that. You know, sometimes the reaction for some people is that they can never really be honest with their elders because of the fact that if they're really honest, they risk having their elders treat them poorly. And so people disguise their preferred gender, they disguise their sexuality, they disguise their life aspirations, they disguise their relationships with other people because they don't want to hear their family's critique. Even if their family is wrong, they don't want to hear it. Then there's other people who they decide to just divorce themselves from their families. They tell their families, you know, this is the last straw for me. If you don't want to even try to understand me on a human basis, I'm not going to continue to allow you to kick me when I'm down. And so I think I think it's hard growing up in an immigrant household or in my case a Black household and trying to have the conversation with people who are so used to these very defined roles and this parents never have to say sorry to kids thing, and to let them understand me asking for an apology or you offering me an apology doesn't make you weak. It doesn't stop me from being your child or your niece or your grandchild. All it does is lets me know that you can see me and you understand, and that when you're wrong, you know you're wrong. And when I'm wrong, I can be honest and I can apologize too. And we can really be honest with one another. And if we can be honest with each other, then we can actually trust each other. And we can be closer because we trust each other. If I can come into my home and I can tell you something and I can expect, even if you maybe have judgment about it, you're willing to listen to me explain where I'm coming from. And maybe you can help me before I make a big mistake instead of me trying to do it all by myself and then disaster happening and feeling like I have no one to go to. That's tough. And I don't necessarily know how to open those conversations. I've been really lucky. My mother is a very open-minded person, and she does allow me and my daughter to talk with her and disagree with her. But my stepfather was not that guy. He was not. He was one of those kids stay in a kid's place, and I do all this for you, so you just need to do what I told you to do. And it was hard. But I I really like the comment that Nina left. She said, oh yeah, my parents def worked hard. They were barely home, and it's only now as an adult living in their house during COVID that we had time to talk and get to know each other. That is one of the things that I think COVID has really done a lot of, especially in households where the financial power dynamic has changed. I also like Sarah's comment that says, my Dominican grandmother never apologized. She simply stopped giving people the silent treatment. She's like, I'm over it now. I'm okay. I'm not gonna just be mean to you anymore. Like old people. But I know with a lot of households, especially households where there's multiple generations, as older people either got sick or lost their jobs or couldn't work outside the home anymore, and younger people continued to stay in the workforce and they became the main breadwinners for their family, there had to be a lot of conversations, because just saying you live in my house and I pay the bills so you need to listen, that that is not the conversation you can have anymore. And even if you say, well, when you were growing up, I did all this for you and all you're doing is repaying me, that isn't even an appropriate conversation to have either. Because sometimes it's more than that. Especially if you're dealing with somebody who's faced major illness. If you've got somebody who faced COVID in their family and were blessed enough to get over it, then I think that puts everything into rough relief. And you're like, I can't keep living like this. Or what if I had died and I didn't have a chance to tell you A, B, C, and D? Or what if I had died and we had stayed estranged and I never got to make up for lost time? And so COVID, I think, has pushed a lot of people into saying things that they never said before and trying to understand people like they've never understood before. And good to do it now before it's too late. Good to do it now before it's too late, because it can be too late. It absolutely can be too late. So it is interesting how, these relationships have changed, and how we've gotten to a point where that old mentality of just, not listening to kids, that's gone now. That's gone now. If you look at TikTok and you look at the way that parents talk to their kids, like little kids, toddlers, and the way they like actively listen to their kids now, it's so different. It's so different. And the strategies that parents use to raise kids now are even different than they were when I was raising Stevie. When she was little, the compassion that people had for toddlers even has changed over the years. So I hope more of that changes. I really, really do. But yeah, I would never expect in my black ass family for anybody to host an apology dinner, especially nobody over the age of 50. It was not going to happen. But yeah, if anybody's ever attended an apology dinner, let me know the tea. Let me know what really happened, because I'm interested. I'm very interested. Finally, let me talk to you guys. Okay, for sure I learned a lot about why my parents are the way they are during this past year, and I hate them less for what they did when I was a child. I'm really glad, Nina, that this worked somewhere towards forgiveness and hopefully towards healing. That's really important. Working towards healing. I'm really glad to hear that. That's the best outcome before it's too late. I guess the last thing I want to talk about is, this is actually probably not even for anybody who's watching except for maybe a couple people who know I'm talking to them. Y'all have no clue. Well, some of you have a clue, but a lot of you don't. Y'all have no clue how hard it is to be on YouTube. Full stop. Full stop. No matter if you're a big channel or a small channel, how hard it is to be on YouTube. There's a lot of people who started YouTube with no aspiration to do anything other than make some friends, find some community, share something interesting, like just had no clue about what YouTube was going to be for them. And then there's other people who start YouTube with an absolute agenda. They know exactly what they want and they work really hard to try to get to this perceived goal, even if they end up hurting themselves to try to get to this end goal. But either way, it is hard, because if you happen to be a part of the latter group where you've worked really hard to try to make YouTube or Twitch or Instagram a lifestyle and a way to support yourself into the future and make it your career, and it doesn't go well, it's really tough to have built up these great expectations and thinking if you just follow the playbook of a David Dobrik or the playbook of a PewDiePie or the playbook of a Tana Mojo, then things are going to work out for you. And they don't. And I'm listing so many people that I don't even watch their channels, but they're big names on YouTube, which is why I bring them up. But if you invest time and money and energy and you forego other things in your life to get to that point and it doesn't work out, that's horrible. It's even more horrible when it does work out, but when you get there, you've had to change everything you are in order to be there. Like you start out thinking, I can make it by being this way. And then people tell you that's not what we want. We want more of this other. And you keep getting more reinforcement to go in a direction that is absolutely not you. It's not what you want to be doing, but it's what pays the bills. It's what gets engagement. It's what makes people buy the merch. That's tough. That is tough. Granted, I still have very little sympathy for Shane Dawson, but it's still very tough. And that's why a lot of people, I think, once they get to a certain point and they've made enough money on YouTube, they just bow the hell out. They're like, I will make things on my own terms, or maybe I've made enough money, Jenna Marbles, and I'm just done. I'm going to marry my man, raise our puppy family, maybe have a baby or two, and I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge. But then there's other people who came to YouTube, the former, who had no expectation that YouTube would be anything other than just a place to talk about the things they're interested in, maybe make some friends, maybe make some community, but really didn't get on YouTube for anything other than, a small hole in an otherwise huge universe. And for some reason or another, they took off through no intents of their own. It just blew up for them in small ways and big ways. Some people, it's just like, I've been able to sustain relationships over YouTube that I didn't anticipate, or more than one person is listening to what I have to say. And then there's other people with thousands of subscribers, millions of subscribers, and all of a sudden, everything they do is put under a microscope. Everything that they would have said freely when they had 5 subscribers, they now have to think 10 times over because they have 5,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers. And I don't think a lot of people who watch those channels even realize how much pressure that is. Because when you're first getting subscribers, like I remember like my first 100 subscribers, I was fucking pumped. I was like, wow, we're doing big things over here. But also like that first 100, every comment anybody ever left me was super nice. I didn't have no downvotes of nothing. Everybody was super complimentary. I'm like, I'm doing everything perfect. This is the way. I'm super excited. And then as more and more people subscribed, more and more downvotes. And I'm like, the fuck is going on here? Like, more people are watching, but more people dislike what I'm doing. What's going on? And then, like, when the channel gets stagnant, you're like, okay, now what really is going on? Because now my views are going down, my subscriber base is not increasing. What's going on? Like, am I losing my touch? Am I not as entertaining? Am I not a good person? Like, you get in your head. But some people are not prepared for divorcing themselves from the way that YouTube interacts with them. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. If you have a channel with thousands of subscribers, coming from a place where it's just like hundreds over here, and coming from some people who have tens of followers, people that have thousands of followers, that is a different experience entirely, because you might get to a place in your YouTube journey where you're like, okay, I want to be able to turn YouTube off when I want to turn YouTube off. I want to be able to put on YouTube what I need the public to see, and then I want to get away from it. But you get into a lifestyle unintentionally where when you have thousands of subscribers, that's thousands of people who now feel invested in your content, and they want answers from you, and they have an image of what they think you are and who they think you are and what you owe them. And then you have people that maybe they had intentions of doing big things on YouTube and it didn't happen for them, and they're jealous of what you did, and they're jealous of how you made it, and they assume that you're not worthy of your success. So then they bleed into your Instagram, and they bleed into your Twitter, and they bleed into other parts of social media that you wanted to keep divorced from your YouTube. And it becomes something to where, even though people say just divorce yourself from it, don't pay any attention to it, don't worry about it, it's almost impossible to do, because people start saying, I know what your last name is, I know where you live, I know where you work, I have the ability, because of your notoriety, to say something untrue about you. But I can create fake receipts because people are hungry to tear you down. And I'm always stunned, number one, that anyone could be that invested in somebody else's life that they're not fucking or working for. But two, I'm always wondering, how do you get out of that? How do you keep from letting something like that destroy you? Do you just go on your channel one day and you rant and tell everybody, kiss my ass, I do what the fuck I want, and I don't want to hear your bullshit? Do you maintain your same demeanor? Because if you were to go on your channel and rant, you would lose all these people that have been kind to you. How do you stop yourself from looking at the thumbs up and the thumbs down? And even though there might be 5,000 thumbs up, there's 100 thumbs down, like, oh crap, did I say something horrible? Did I ruin everything? Am I really a bad person? How do you keep from internalizing that? How do you keep from internalizing that if you're being genuine? I feel like it's become very popular through drama channels or whatever else to have no sympathy for YouTubers, because there are a lot of YouTubers out here, JStation, who do a lot of shit just for the algorithm, just for the monetization, and don't give a fuck about anything else. Just that. And it's easy to pick on those people and be like, man, fuck that guy, fuck that lady, fuck that non-gendered, non-binary person. But because it's so easy to kind of like throw stones at those bigger targets, sometimes I think our standards for who a bigger target is get skewed. And we don't have any understanding for people who really are just out here just trying to live. Just out here trying to live, just trying to do something fun, trying to have a hobby, and we shit on them because they don't perform to our expectation. Not saying that people don't have to be accountable for their behavior. Not saying that at all. But like, there's some truly outlandish shit that people do that is just, what for? Why for? How come? You know, like, I've talked about it on my channel before when it comes to the K-pop unboxing community. There are people who started unboxing channels with the idea that I'm going to become one of the biggest unboxing channels on YouTube, and they buy tons of albums and they do videos with these massive hauls and they unbox everything, and they have these really cheery personalities because they're trying to get popular. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Then there's other people who start out small and they put years of work into it, and then their channel just becomes this big thing because it's been there for so long, and they have such reliable personalities, and they have really good engagement because of their sincerity and their authenticity, and they're just there. And they had no intention of being one of those top 3 or 4 or 5, but they just are. But because they are considered these kind of bedrocks of the community, these kind of people that have always been there, you have folks who go into their comments and leave the wildest commentary there, and they do it because they don't feel like there's any kind of accountability for that. This person should be able to take it because look how many subscribers they have. How do those two things equal? How are those two things equal? How does the number of subscribers I have justify you saying something to me so wildly and outrageously out of pocket? And let's just forget there's a language barrier there. And maybe I made a comment that you don't understand because English isn't your first language and you misinterpreted my comment. Let's just talk about you coming onto my YouTube page and saying, wow, look at all the stuff you have that I want to rob. Or you coming on there and saying, why are you making fun of Jamin's hair? He's just a kid. Grow up, old lady. Or going on somebody's channel and saying, again, doing another unboxing of this group for clout when you don't even listen to their music. Or going on somebody's channel and saying, you complain all the time about this, that, and the other, but then you just bought concert tickets. And maybe if you're complaining about why you can't move out of your parents' house, you shouldn't be buying concert tickets because then you'd have the money to pay rent. This is not me talking about anybody in specific, by the way. I'm just talking about things I've read on many channels. I read this on many channels because there's a lot of people who are younger, like college age, and they live at home and they buy a lot of K-pop, but then like, I need to move out soon, and people are like, well, you can move out if you didn't buy K-pop. I say all that to say, I think that these people who have to deal with this kind of harassment, because that's what it is, folks, it really is harassment, that those people that have to deal with that kind of harassment, I think we as viewers need to start being a little bit more understanding of the YouTuber themselves and understanding of the fact that they're human beings. They're not machines. They're not the algorithm. We need to be more understanding of them. But we might need to start doing a little bit more policing of ourselves and other people in the comment section. Like when you see somebody leave something wildly out of pocket, just send support messages. Don't even address the person who made the comment. Like if somebody says, you think you're all that you're really just a wannabe clout chaser, underneath that comment, like, I love this person's channel because they unbox my favorite group. Or I love this person's channel because they have such a great sense of humor. Or I love this person's channel because they make me smile when I've had a bad day. You are right about that, Sarah. People say stuff online they would never say face to face. I wish that somebody who left a negative comment for me would show up at my doorstep to say it to my face. Number one, because I got these hands for you all fucking day. But number two, you don't have it in you. You don't have it in you to face my wrath for real. You really, really don't. But I think engaging with these trolls is never going to work. That's what they live for. They look for people to engage with them, to make them feel like, oh, I made people mad, ha ha ha. Or they're looking for people to be on their side. And so that's why they say stuff like that. And so they're like, I hope that people also agree with me and then we can be friends because we all hate this person in common. No. Instead, just act like they didn't say anything but an invitation to love on somebody. Just go up under their comment and be like, you know, homegirl's hair is looking amazing today. Because if you give them what they're looking for, they're going to continue to do that. But you know that the creator of that video is looking at that negative comment and they are feeling like they are the worst. And if you could say, the replies are, you're amazing, you're smart, you are funny, you're creative, you make me think about things I've never thought about before, you're kind. If you can say all those things, then you can change that person's day. You could change that person's feelings about why am I even fucking doing this in the first place if this is the kind of messaging that's coming at me. You can't make these trolls stop saying things. You can report them. You can absolutely report them. But you can't make them stop saying these things. They'll get new accounts. They'll create new IDs. They'll continue harassment. But, and it's hard to do, You could also ignore them and their bullshit and counter it with, I just really love the color of your nails today, girlfriend. You look amazing. Or, boy, I love the way you said that phrase. That is the funniest thing you've said in a long time. You could do that. You could do that. Now, if somebody needs to say something spicy, I know for me and mine, I get back at you in the comment section. I really do, because I'm petty like that. So for people in my comment section, you don't have to worry about defending me. I can defend me. And when me and Mason do our Boys Love vlogs and people leave spicy comments for us, trust and believe, I'm always there with a comeback. I'm always there with a comeback. But on somebody else's channel, I have found over the years that leaving a spicy comeback for somebody doesn't help the situation, because that is an invitation to an argument. That is an invitation to somebody being like, oh, well, now that I got your attention, instead, talk to the creator. Just talk to the creator. Act like that person doesn't even exist. Like, oh, you got some negative energy today? Let me give you some positive energy. Let me make this better for you. And that can go a long way. That can really go a long way. That can go a long way to maybe the creator writing you back and be like, hey, thank you, I appreciate it. Or maybe them in their next video like, thank you for the kind comments, guys. Keep them coming. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like what I'm doing is not, for the assholes in the room. But that's really all we can do. I was watching an interview that Desus and Mero did with an actress whose name I cannot recall now, but she's in the new Zola movie. And she was saying how, or they were telling her, like, you have a really upbeat personality. And how do you keep such an upbeat personality in the midst of, like, coronavirus and all the bad things that are happening? How do you stay so positive? And she said, somebody told her that I can't make somebody else less poor by being poor myself. I can't make somebody less sad by being sad myself. I can only do things that are positive and hope that my positivity is contagious. And while I'm not yet on that complete spiritual journey, I thought it was a really interesting thing to say, because it's the truth. Like, when you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. That's the old phrase that the old people use. But it's true in a way. When you go to that same level that these gross, nasty people are, you have to be prepared to catch their energy. You have to be prepared for them to take you to a place that you might not want to go to. But if they're not prepared to bring their energy up, if they're not prepared to be positive, if they're not prepared to be happy, at least you haven't made yourself unhappy trying to squabble with them on their low ass level. So, yeah, I just want to put that out there. I just really wanted to put that out there because I don't know who needs it. I don't know who is going to hear it and internalize it. But, some of our faves out there are really struggling. Some of our faves out there are struggling and they can't say a word. They want to say a word, but they can't say a word because they don't want to alienate all the people who watch them all the time. But
what?
I hate to bring it back to this all the time because I feel like I say this every time.
Mm-hmm.
If I thought that Jonghyun could have heard me say one thing to him, I would have wanted him, if he ever saw anything I ever said about him, wrote about him, anything at all, before he passed, I really hope that whatever he had from me was something positive. I hope I didn't give him anything negative, anything that made him uncomfortable, anything that made him sad. And if the negative comments, if the bad things contributed to his state of mind, I hope that there were periods in time before the end where he was close and something good happened or somebody said something comforting and maybe bought him one more day. So that's the goal here, is just buy people a few more minutes, buy them one more day, give them one more opportunity to see peace, give them one more opportunity to see happiness, give them one more opportunity to maybe reconsider entering that negative mind spiral. Because that's all we can do. Honestly, we don't know these people for real, for real. That's all we can do, is just not let us be a source of pain, not let us be a source of negativity, not getting in arguments with these people in the comment section and blowing up the notifications of a creator because there's this big argument thing going on in their comment section, you know? So let us try our hardest. Anyway, I thank you guys for listening to me ramble about my bullshit. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me as I talk about things that have nothing to do with K-pop and really and truly are very much niche emotional baggage of my own that a few of you happen to share. I don't intend to do a bunch of videos like this, but it's been something that's been on my heart to talk to you guys about for a really long time now. I've never known where to begin. I've tried to pre-film this video many, many times, but I would stop and I'd be like, I can't. I'm rambling. And so doing it in a live was the best way I could do it. But, you know, let me talk to you real quick before we go. You are hearing the sound of my voice because you're still here. And it is hard to still be here. You are doing a beautiful job of just taking it second by second. It's not meant to be easy. It might even get worse. Real talk. And the idea that getting worse is terrifying. And thinking that maybe you need to stop everything because that fear of it getting worse is just holding you hostage, I understand. I can only tell you this. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about next week. Don't think about next year. Think about that next second, because you did a beautiful job making it through the second ago. Let's make it to the next second. And let's just keep focusing on these next seconds. Because anything could happen. In 2019, did you know that COVID was going to do this to us? No, you didn't. It takes a second for everything to change. A second that creates a minute, that creates an hour, that creates a day, that creates a week and a month and a year. It's just time. And time is a concept. It's a construct. It's not real. So looking at time and thinking that time is overwhelming, time is make-believe. Breathe in, breathe out, make it to that next second, and keep making it to that next second. And one of these next seconds, I'm going to be up here with another video, God willing, and we'll talk about some more seconds, and we'll kill 5 minutes and 10 minutes and a half an hour and then an hour and then almost 2 hours like we just did. And we'll keep doing that. We'll just keep living in these seconds, and we'll keep hoping that these seconds turn into minutes and hours and days and weeks, and that at some point we'll get to a period in life where it doesn't hurt as much as it does right now. But you've been doing a really good job. And all I want you to do is just keep trying. It is not easy. Even when it feels easy, it's not easy. Because you had to go through something to make it feel easier. You had to go through something to make it feel better. It's not easy, even when it's easy, because you had to go through something to get to easy. But I'm proud of you for doing this. I really am. I don't know you the way that other people know you, but you made it here. And so I can't help but be proud of you, because it was a gargantuan feat that got you here. So just keep on going. You can do this. However you need to do this. You might be doing some things you're kind of ashamed of right now. I understand. I hope you won't always be doing those things, but you're buying yourself a little bit more time, and I get it. And I hope once you get out of the worst of it, you can stop doing those things. But if you have to do those things, just know I know why you're doing them. I hope that you can get out from underneath all these burdens. I hope you can get out from underneath all these trials. I hope you can quit doing things that hurt you in the long run. But if it gets you through the short run, I get it. And it doesn't make me any less proud of you. It only makes me hopeful that one day you'll be even prouder of yourself when you get through it. But I believe in you. I really, really do. And I hope that we can continue to meet each other here. I hope that we can continue to make it. Because that's what I want for you. That's all I want from you. I don't need you to give me anything. I don't need you to do anything for me except for be here the next time it's time for us to get together. I wish you all the best. Forever. I wish you no pain. I wish you a good life because you deserve a good life. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
I'm gonna be hard now.
What are you talking about? She's so mean to me. She's the meanest person in the world. She really is. I can't take her anywhere. She does nothing but bad things to me.
I'm just saying that little ending part is just like, ooh,